Hey guys, a lot of people have been asking me for new food storage, preparation, having food on hand tips. Rather than having food storage that is in your shelf and is only used in emergencies, my preference is to have food storage that you can have sit in dry storage, or you can pressure can it and keep it in a jar for short to medium term storage, or you can have that storage be put into the ground and turn into more food. So this right here is my big cheese making or canning pot. It has a really thick bottom, and I have been soaking beans in it for about 12 hours now. And so I'm going to set them on the stove to cook for lunch. Just because you see that I have a wood stove doesn't mean that you can't do these things on a conventional stove. When I'm canning and I'm using a pressure canner, I use either my propane attachment on my wood stove or I use my conventional stove. And that's because I don't want to be lifting on and off a pot that is pressurized. Now, the best thing about storing in bulk something that is a grain or a seed when we planted our garden, I just went in the house and grabbed a bag of beans that was in my cupboard to be cooked, and I used those to plant my beans, and they came out just fine. So whatever type of bean you like to eat, you can store it in a 50-pound bag, but also use it as seed. I think that there is definitely a place for freeze-dried and specialty item food storage, but I think the first things on your list need to be basic ingredients. And the reason for this is that they are less expensive and they can duplicate themselves. So you've got beans, you've got quinoa, you've got corn, you've got millet, you've got amaranth. And then on the root side of things, you would have carrots, onions, and potatoes as some of the things that you could use. Same way, so carrots and onions are both biennials, which means that the first year they don't go to seed. They grow the first year, and then the second year when they come back up, they have a shoot that comes up that puts on a seed head, and that seed head is where your seeds come from for onions and carrots. And you can see that it's kind of a skill-based system instead of a commodity-based system. Yes, you have the commodity, but you need to also have the skill that goes with it to allow you to duplicate it. We have enough potatoes in our storage to last us for a year. Plus we use all the ones that had green on them and all the really tiny ones that were just too small to eat. We save those and we use those as our seed potatoes for the next year. Just because something has gone soft and you don't want to eat it doesn't mean it doesn't still have a use. Make sure that whatever potatoes you buy do not have sprout nip on them. Sprout nip will make your potatoes rot instead of sprout. And most potatoes that you would buy at a warehouse or at a grocery store would have been treated with sprout nip so that they will not sprout. If you're going to be relying on something like this, for your food storage seeds. Make sure to sprout them when you first get them to make sure that they will sprout. Just do a little test run, get them damp, put them on a paper towel, get the paper towel damp, and then just keep it damp for a few days and see if it'll sprout. And if it will sprout, then you know you're set. If it won't sprout, try it a little bit longer and see if it'll sprout then. And that's how you'll know whether or not your food that you're eventually maybe going to turn into more food is what you want it to be. Hybridized seeds are going to not breed true, and so you want open pollinated. You don't have to have heirloom. Heirloom just means that it's been a true strain that was grown a long time ago. But there are open pollinated seeds now that aren't necessarily heirloom that will work just fine. You can get organic beans. The source that I have for them is Azure Standard, Azure with a Z. And with that membership, what happens is you can order 50-pound bags, 20-pound bags, or smaller bags of your beans or your amaranth or your millet or your corn. All of those things, as long as they haven't been denatured or heated in some way, they will sprout and you can grow with them. In my opinion, you want non-GMO. For one thing, the genetic part of that seed is actually patented, which means that if you're growing GMO seeds, the patent owner can come and confiscate your seeds that you grew. Any of your harvest, they can confiscate it if that genetic modification is in your seeds. So. As far as organic versus conventional, if you can't afford organic, get conventional. Have it in your storage, do your best. Those conventional beans will still sprout. Even though they're not organic, they will still work. And then the second year, the year that you plant them, they will now be organic because you grew them without pesticides or herbicides. I value seed companies that sell you little packets because they have a large variety of seeds that they can sell to you. However, for my own garden, instead of going out and buying a really wide open variety of seeds, I try really hard to have one or two basic seeds and buy them in bulk. Do I still have new small seed packets that I want to try over the course of the year? Yes, but the bulk of my seeds are going to be this size because that's the size I need to be able to fill my garden with the food that I need next year. Things I would highly recommend is go find free buckets or free jars. Don't throw these kind of things out. This was an apple cider jar that came when one of our Airbnbers was on WIC. And so she was on food stamps, she could afford to buy apple juice, and so we saved all of her jars, and now we use them for our goat's milk, we use them for dry storage. I use them when I was making apple cider vinegar. So get free containers, and you don't want to store your food storage in little thin plastic bags or paper bags. You want them to be in something that seals. A bucket is better, but it's not essential. Even if you're just getting 1 pound and 2 pound bags of beans and putting them into a 5-gallon bucket and sealing the top, it's good enough. Do that. Now, the other thing is that if you have food storage like this that has gone bad, it's been in the shelf for too long, I like to have livestock that can eat that food. For instance, a pig. You can take beans, and with any kind of beans, they need to be soaked and they need to be cooked thoroughly. Otherwise, they will poison you or they will poison your livestock. You can't just take beans out of your food storage and go feed them to your pig. It will kill your pigs. Ask me how I know. And if you have food storage that's old enough that even after being soaked and being cooked, it's still hard, you can pressure cook it and then you can feed it to your animals knowing it won't kill them. It'll still be crunchy, but it won't kill them because you have soaked and cooked it. Maybe somebody else has a pig and they would like to feed their pig without having to spend money on it. So you give them your food storage and then you get half of a pig back. Try not to just lose the investment that you've already made, but try really hard to make connections with people in the community where you have what they need and they have what you need, and try to switch it. So hopefully that was helpful. And if you have other questions, make sure to let me know. The next one that I am wanting to be making is my list of what kinds of food storage you should be storing in bulk and how to go about that.
What is she?
So she's a praying mantis. I named her Praying because every time they tuck up their arms, they look like they're praying, and she's huge.
Now the reason why I screamed was a curly piece of straw I hooked onto my toe and I thought it was a grasshopper, and grasshopper do sticky things, and it is not comfortable. It scares me. I'm eating.
Good thing. So here we are, late September, and the greenhouse is still 75 and 80 degrees. We're pulling out beautiful tomatoes, for sure.
And we're glad the bad bugs are being eaten too.
I think she's eating some right now.